morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our July Chai and Just Chat session. We have wonderful panelists here today, and you'll be listening to us talk about the how, where, why, and when of smart manufacturing. So we are so excited because our Chai and Just Chat session next month is heading to our 4th year anniversary. So what does that mean? August of 2017, we started these monthly sessions, and we're so excited that every month we touched upon some topic or the other. And today we are talking about smart manufacturing. And the next better thing is we have wonderful panelists joining from across the world, all the way from Delhi and Bangalore, and from New York, and from around my town, which is in Johns Creek, Georgia, as well. So thank you again. And we do thank Vendorship Inc. for their relentless support for sponsoring our Chai and Just Chat sessions. And for those who've been our loyal attendees and listening to us, COVID has put us online, but also the best thing about Chai and Just Chat being online is we get to hear from panelists even from New Delhi. So thank you again for joining us today. And I'm going to go through the agenda for today. I'm going to briefly read out the bio for profiles for our panelists, and then there's going to be a general question that I'm going to ask each of them, and then we're going to go into their core discussion. Yeah, and I want to start with Vivek. Vivek Furtado is the head of digitalization with machine tools at Siemens. And Vivek has been with Siemens for 23 years, and he has held various positions in application engineering, supply chain management, product marketing, account management, and business development. His international scope experience spans various manufacturing industries like aerospace, glass manufacturing, machine building, and automotive production in various countries like India, Germany, Japan, and US. Vivek, oh my gosh, you come with so much of experience. So these various positions enable Vivek to develop not only broad cross-functional experience, but also skills in multicultural teams, in leading multicultural teams. In his current position, Vivek is responsible for comprehensive portfolio of machine tools related software suites ranging from edge-based, cloud-based applications as well. Another best part that I relate to Vivek very much, of course, not in the smart engineering part, smart manufacturing part, but with the other role is he's also our board advisor for Vendorship Inc. So thank you, Vivek, for your much energy and support. So thank you. So next we have Scott Evans. Scott is the Senior Technology Project Manager at Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce, which is my neighboring county. And he has previously worked as a management consultant, a chamber executive, and has background in management coaching and IT system designs. So Scott, looks like you have been in the Cherokee County Chamber of Commerce with Pickens County. So you have picked up different perspectives from all these counties. So even as a chief operating officer for Scott Crow, so a management consulting firm. So, which has sort of you've been involved in process improvement, management, coaching, and IT system designs again. So, thank you, Scott, for joining us. We look forward to your insight today on the county level and how intercounty communications are going on for smart manufacturing. And Shaju Mangalam is the head state, a very good friend of mine. We connected like probably 2 years ago when I went to India. We just met at a pizza place before I met with his director as well, and we've kept in touch since then. So started very few times that such connections happen. So thank you for all your positive energy and sort of building the bridge between where we live and where you are, which is in Bangalore right now. So you are based in Bangalore. You have 26 years of experience in handling industry and trade affairs with Government of India and various state governments. You are heading FICCI State Council in Karnataka State, and you would also you've also had a role in Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce. That's FICCI, of course, which is one of India's premier industry association. What I meant to say was you also work with Confederation of Indian Industries, the CII, right? and you have extensive experience in handling textile and apparel industry, and have been an assistant secretary general of Confederation of Indian Textile Industry. So thank you, Saju, for your
Thank
various experience, your energy, and your participation. I know it's probably 8:30 or 8 p.m. in India. Hopefully, you all have had your dinner and
yes.
going to enjoy chai
Yeah.
with us. And so, thank you, Saju.
Thank you.
Rahul Chinnar, thank you. Rahul has been a good friend from probably 6 to 7 years. We connected when I ran for office. So, Rahul, thank you for taking time this morning. You are a senior director from product management at Honeywell. You lead their industrial Internet of Things division. You have 17 years in the heavy duty industrial space in variety of roles from engineering to commercial to product leadership. So Rahul, you're certainly not 65 years old, but you have 65 patents, right? To your name, and you are a prolific inventor. I don't think I can just finish understanding what are those patents, right? But you are a top inventor of Indian origin. So the US government saw a huge, unique skills in you or an extraordinary ability, and they gave you a green card. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you really moved the US government. So congratulations and
Mhm.
many, many, many more, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Chennai, Devan Mitra, thank you for joining from New Delhi. You are in the group corporate office. You are also strategic policy and public affairs group with Mahindra Group. So thank you for joining us. You are an aspiring young leader with 10 years of diversified experience in the area of strategy, project management, and communication. I'm just reading your entire profile. Oh my gosh, it's impressive. Your global work experience from Middle East to US, Southeast Asia, India, Australia, and you also team lead at Mahindra and CII. You are a creator, presenter, and an author. I would love to find out what book you've written or haven't. Please let us know as well. And you have authored or co-authored Confederation of Indian Industry Champion Manufacturing Industry. So you really do bring a lot of insight to today's discussion, which is 2025. For 2025, you've given them, I've read your action plan, I read through your entire document. It was really wonderful to read, right? You also founded SP Jain Premier League, a sports league based on the Indian Premier League. Wow, David, that is cool. And you are industry experience in manufacturing, automotive, and mobility as well. So thank you, Devan, for joining us. And this is great. So my questions to you: I would like to start. Like I said, this is general questionnaire. Scott, I would like to start with you. Who's someone you admire or respect, and why?
Someone that I admire and respect. Um, well, I have someone who was his name's Nathan, and he was my counselor in college, and we have been friends for 25 years. We meet together on at least every 3 months just to talk about where we are in our life. But he's someone that I guess I aspire to, I want to be like. The reason is he has the biggest heart for people, and but he's very smart and is very well accomplished in his life. So uh, he's not known to anyone other than me, but he's someone that in my family life and in my personal life, I aspire to be like.
Very nice, Scott. And that just goes to say the people whom we admire or respect don't have to be always famous or a famous personality. They've made a difference in our life and have been a part of our success as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
I know that you asked me why, and I just had to think for a second, but there's times where we celebrate things that life is good and we've made a lot of accomplishments, but when you're a professional, not everything is a high. Sometimes there's lows, and when I get into those lows, I forget to look forward, and then all of a sudden his face will pop into my head, and it reminds me of, that's who I want to be. And so then I start picking myself up out of the doldrums, the things that's really dragging me down. And I remember the processes that I needed to be to refocus myself and not get caught up on my current environment, but look to the steps that I need to get out of the situation I'm in.
Very nice. Thank you for bringing that up. Vivek, the next question is for you. If you were to write a book about yourself, how would you name it?
Um, well, maybe I would name it The Challenges Associated with Work-Life Balance.
Wow. Okay. And what would be one or two titles within chapter titles within the book?
Uh, well, I mean, first of all, I mean, the first one would be very big, talking about the challenges and how difficult it is to cope. On one hand, with your family, with your career, especially in the beginning, and later you realize at some point of time that it's not all about work, and there's a turning point that happens there. You say, okay, it's more about life, and not only about life in the work environment, but not only at home, but also in the work environment, having de-stressing people, and building up relationships. I guess that's equally important in your work atmosphere as at home as well.
Definitely, Vivek. When can I get an autograph copy of it?
When it's published, sure.
Okay, sounds good. And Shaju, if you had a magic stick, which are three things that you would use to change the world?
I want to work towards I have seen in the rural areas there's a tremendous amount of poverty and squalor and malnutrition, which is very disturbing. When you go to the when you was living in cities, you don't feel that, but I have been extensively associated with so many some of the the work related to the social development and charities and such kind of organizations. So I used to visit uh, the slums and places which used to disturb me so much. So one of the major tasks which I have in mind is that to transform uh, the social backwardness of many of the Indian rural areas. So that is one of the dream. Second is there are a lot of aspiring youngsters who wants to come up to the mainstream, and they have tremendous abilities are there. So if we can provide them the guidance and link them with the right kind of the potential supporting people who can help them to achieve their dreams, that is the second aspect which I will be working towards. The third aspect is the technology transition which is happening, which I am working with the corporates. I want to help the corporate extensively, coordinating with my member companies, as well as, small and medium startups companies. In Bangalore, 80% of the India's startup ecosystem and coming from Bangalore. So we have a constant engagement with the young entrepreneurs who have financial difficulties to come up with their projects and other things. So helping them and getting them the right type of venture capitalist, the technology, also making them align with this manufacturing. So these are the three segments which I would like to, I'm working, but I want to contribute more on this.
Very well said. Thank you, Shaju. Definitely. So, Devan, my next question is for you. If you had to choose one family member to be around 24/7 for a week, who would it be?
Okay. So very simple answer. I just had a newborn, so she's gonna.
Oh, very nice. Congratulations. He or she, what's the name?
Her name is Pia.
Pia. Very nice. Okay. So, how are you
Congratulations.
enjoying? how are you enjoying your fatherhood?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing that I've ever felt.
Well, see, I knew perfect question to ask you, even though I didn't know about the baby. So, how old is she?
She's 8 months.
8 months. Wow, Devan, congratulations. Fatherhood is really wonderful, and if we can teach them the, the well, not just being book smart, but also being street smart, is
Sure.
going to be wonderful. So, congratulations again. And Rahul, my final question, my final general question is for you. What does life mean to you?
Oh, wow, interesting. I've been trying to find that answer since the last 10 years. What is life? What is the purpose of life? And I think I've come to the conclusion that um, the purpose is just live in. To me, it's live in the present, and try your best to help everyone and everything that you can around you, in whatever way you can. If it's nature, help the nature. Plant more trees, take care of the animals and birds and around you. If it's human beings and they need help, help them. Teach them how to fish. Don't give them the fish. That's my way. So if I gather around school students, I just want to teach them about science, which I can. If it's my peers, how do they become better leaders? How do they excel at work, and so on. So really, it's a age old question, Nazira. So tough to answer. Still looking for the answer of what it really means. But this is where I have landed at the moment as to what my perception of this is.
Definitely, living in the present is a great advice for those. Many of us who forget and live in a worry world. So, thank you, Rahul, for bringing that up. So, as I was speaking to our panelists before we went live, I was telling them, imagine themselves to be, in their spot, and they're moderating five interventional cardiologists. So I told her that's how I'm feeling, as my background is in medical field as a practicing physician in my prior life, and now interviewing or moderating this smart manufacturing. But one thing I'll tell you is I've been preparing for it. I've loved the way where smart manufacturing has come up to. I really enjoyed reading about it, and I'm like, hey, had I even gone to mechanical engineering, I think I would have excelled. So I really enjoyed as I was reading and learning. And I'm sure you all are going to learn a lot from the panelists as well. But before we head into those questions, I definitely want us to discuss some of these meanings or definitions of these terms, maybe not exact definitions, but what do we mean by when we say smart manufacturing? So, Devan, do you want to take that up? What does like smart manufacturing mean? And it can be simple because we'll be discussing it much more later.
Actually, it's a very interesting question, Nizar, because the first thing that we encountered when we were doing our work for India for smart manufacturing is when we went to the plant and we asked people if they knew what smart manufacturing would mean. They would give in Hindi, they would say Hanji. That meant basically, beg your pardon. So what is, I mean, they really didn't understand what I was talking about. So what the first thing we did as a industry body, we defined smart manufacturing. And maybe the lingo is a little technical, but if you just allow me to read, I'll just read. It's 3 lines only. So we called it like this. So smart manufacturing brings together closed loop digitalized processes, people, connected assets, leveraging a virtual platform across design, manufacturing, and services, leading to mass customization, speed, quality, productivity, and security.
Very nice. Oh my gosh. So basically, yes, it's fun what you just said, but I'm able to understand that because I've been reading about it. But definitely. Thank you, David. Scott, why is it smart? Why not work hard manufacturing?
Why not work hard manufacturing? Is that
I'm just kidding. That was the question. But my question was, can we define Internet of Things, IoT?
Internet of Things? So manufacturing is really taking raw materials and an idea, running it through a process to an end product. And Internet of Things is where you have sensors along that value chain, and that sensor in manufacturing, you're typically talking about mass production. And what you're trying to do is eliminate inconsistencies. And so, with these type sensors along the value chain, you're able to monitor during the whole process and tweak the process to get that consistency every time. It That's just one element of the process. Those sensors also allow you to um, check value, but it gives you the data to improve the value chain at a much more rapid pace than at the end in the quality assurance process. That's a very rudimentary idea of it, but um, Internet of Things is where you have devices and taking it outside of manufacturing, it's a lot easier to think of it as your thermostat in your house that has a sensor in it that uses the internet to communicate to you through the internet back to your phone that you can control. Well, if you take that same process or that same concept and look at it at different intervals on the manufacturing process, then you can make those tweaks along the process that you need to.
Very nice. And as a person not from mechanical or manufacturing background, basically it's connecting, right, and making life simplified. So I recently installed this. It's something like a ringer where people, if you people ring the bell. So I'm probably somewhere else, like miles and miles away, and when my daughter's home and someone's ringing the bell, it's giving me, hey, someone's ringing the bell. I'm immediately able to see who it is, and I'm able to tell my daughter whether open the door or don't open the door. So is that sort of Internet of Things connecting wherever you are for ease? So that's
Yeah.
amazing, right? And I've always
But
enjoyed.
I would chime in, Nazir, as what I'm saying is the humans are reaching entitlement, right? We are reaching entitlement in terms of optimization. How much can we optimize? How much can we work harder? How much can we improve our manufacturing process, reduce waste? How much can we make sure that what we manufacture is good? How much can we ensure that the machines that are manufacturing do not fail, and so on? We've reached that entitlement, yeah, and so that we have to get that next level of efficiency, and that happens with sensors and with machine learning and with simplification of that. So that to me is this whole IoT smart manufacturing thing, solving a problem which humans alone cannot solve. Now you have to take it to the next level where you need machines and you need artificial intelligence and so on to hook into those systems that you're using and make them smarter and give you the insight. So, like very simple example, you sit in your car, you put the car key in, you turn the car engine on, and immediately the dashboard comes in front of you. And the dashboard shows engine oil light is fine, tire pressure is fine, wiper fluid is fine, brake fluid is fine. And you're like, boom, in 2 seconds, you know that your car is good. You, you put it in gear and you start driving. If that dashboard was not there, you would have to manually check your engine oil, you would have to manually check your tire pressure, and you would take 2 hours to do it, and then you would crank the car and then you would go forward. That's how they did it in the old days. Today, you see the efficiency, boom, boom. So
Very
that
nice.
is what we need to do in the manufacturing industry and so on. So just my
So,
2 cents to that.
did you just answer the definition for industrial Internet of Things, Rahul? Is that what
And,
industrial Internet of Things is?
I would say to some degree it's just a use case or a practical example that resonates with everyone. That was the intent.
Okay, yes, so definitely, because my next question was going to be about industrial Internet of Things, but basically you're saying using the IoT in the manufacturing arena is industrial Internet of Things. If I got that right. Okay, sounds good. Who among y'all can, and it's not a quiz question, who coined the term IoT? Okay, I'm just kidding. Okay, so no, I have the answer that I asked you all. No, it was coined by a British technology pioneer in 1999. It was Kevin Ashton. So that was interesting for me. But he coined the term IoT, right? So, Vivek, next question is for you. So smart manufacturing, we tell our kids, we tell ourselves, don't work hard, work smarter, find ways to, find that work-life balance. You can't just keep working if you work hard. So similarly, Rahul just touched upon how do we do that better manufacturing technology. But Rahul, we all didn't get here just like that, right? So we went through several historical background of manufacturing. From what I read, the old system, right? So even not just even the legacy system is old system, but we had the industrial revolution happening from 17th century. So if you want to Vivek touch upon that, just to give a historical perspective of when did the first industrial revolution happen and what was that, and second and third, and where we are now, briefly if you can.
Yeah, sure. And so manufacturing has uh, always had technology leaps. So it has been enabled by technology, starting from the between the 1700 to 1800. Essentially, the first transformation was with steam and water power. That's where really people could utilize additional power besides human power to manufacture things, to put it simply. That I mean, that was called a kind of revolution because it's really spread around the world, right? So it and the next level of how do you say, transformation came with electricity, with electrification, when people discovered electricity, that they could drive motors, that they could do mass production, for example, for the textile, for the steel, for the car industry.
This happened in
And
18th century, around
yes,
1870. Okay.
yes, yes. And more recently, in the 19th century, in the beginning of the 19th century, we have this so-called automation industry. We can call it 3.0. So it started, you have the definition of industry 4.0. So in that way, 3.0 would be the one where we had this innovation hub coming with automation. Automation means basically machines that are somehow controlled with computers, right? It could be CNC machines, what's kind of my focus here, but it could also be robotics. It could be automatically guided vehicles. So this gave a further boost in the productivity for manufacturing. So and this was around for a pretty long time, but then there were other innovations like the internet, artificial intelligence, uh, memory bandwidth, communication, and these technologies enabled Industry 4.0. And the Industry 4.0 was actually, the name was born from Germany, where actually the Germany defined some standards within 4.0 and tried to drive this to enhance their manufacturing performance or capability to be competitive in the market, right? Now it has really spread around the world, and we are realizing the benefits. And as Rahul said, it's about being able to utilize data. There's a lot of data coming out of these devices, right? It's not only people connected to the internet, it's really devices connected to the internet, and with this data, you can take decisions. You can get a transparency of what is happening in your manufacturing, and with AI, you can even take it to the next level, where even the decision making is not done by humans any longer. It's partly delegated to artificial intelligence or machine learning algorithms, right? So essentially, I mean, the KPIs of manufacturing hasn't changed as such. I mean, people want to produce faster, they want to still produce quality, time to market, but this enables us to do this in a better way and in a more comfortable way and be competitive.
Very
So that
nice, Vivek.
that's a
Thank you.
very broad. Yeah.
Wonderful historical perspective. So probably is it right to say that we are in the fourth industrial revolution now?
Yes.
Awesome, sounds good. It's good to put historical perspectives to these talks. So the next question, Saju, is who should care about smart manufacturing? I mean, I'm just a normal person. I'm a consumer. I don't work in manufacturing plants, but who should care about smart manufacturing?
Smart manufacturing is a process where entrepreneurs are I mean, there is as the previous speaker was talking about the transition which has happened over a period of time from 18th century onwards. So that was the necessity, the need of the time, and we have this process has happened automatically. Similarly, right now we are on the edge of the digital era, and the entrepreneurs are looking for ways and means to resolve their complications, especially in the field of wastage of resources, manpower management, and also right now there is uncertainty related to which we have never seen, the pandemic and the lockdown and the all these process has really affected the manufacturing process in a very different ways. So people, entrepreneurs are the industrialists who are investing money, capital, looking for improving their productivity, reducing the wastage, as well as looking for meeting the crisis which can come at any point of time. So they want to reduce this, these complications which are in the brick and mortar manufacturing exercise, which has been happening in the past. So now we have reached a stage where digital and everything is, interlinked, and the data is huge data based interventions as well as innovations are happening. So the basically who care about this, I think it is the business people, the entrepreneurs who are investing heavily in capital intensive logistic supply chain management. So all these people who are looking for solutions are finding a way through this process. So the acceptability of digital transformation, which was earlier in the India was not very late comer in the field of the smart manufacturing, but right now it is picking up, and we have a lot of R&D centers. We have a lot of setups with multinational companies. They are setting up units which is developing this IoT, IIoT, and things like that. So in Bangalore, in Bombay, all these uh, process automation, big data analysis, all these things are happening. So that pace of transition is much faster than what it was 3 years ago. So
Uh,
I feel that entrepreneurs are really the caring people for this.
what about the shareholders of manufacturing companies?
The shareholders are also part of, but they are not decision makers. Shareholders are, that they invest their money, and it is the responsibility of the owner of the company to transform and take the right decision, appropriate, which can, profitability can go up,
Yes,
wastage can reduce, all these things. So it is the basically it is the entrepreneur who has to take this decision. It is not shareholders. So of course, he has to take the consent of the shareholders, but basically the decision is coming from the entrepreneurs.
definitely. Thank you. Devin, feels like you want to
If I
say,
may
and
chime
Devin
in
and
over
then
here.
Scott. Yes, please do. Yes.
So I'll just take it a step back. So, if you look at manufacturing and if you look at the dollar of output that manufacturing creates, the impact it has on economy is one of the largest. So we always say that manufacturing has the largest multiplier to the economy. So if you can see over the last few decades, several countries have been vying for the manufacturing share of various product services. So if you look at it, India and Narendra Modi ji, our Prime Minister, when he came in 2015, he had the vision of double-digit growth of GDP, and manufacturing had to be the main cog in the wheel over there. So when we worked on manufacturing, we realized that policy is one side of one aspect, but if Indian companies are not competitive, then we will not be able to contribute to the manufacturing landscape as we envision it to be. And hence smart manufacturing, that's when it came in, and from 2017 onwards we started focusing a lot on smart manufacturing. So I would say, as an Indian, I think, or as anybody from any economy, irrespective of who you are, if manufacturing is important for economy, smart manufacturing is important for you,
Very good. So basically, you're saying for any citizen as
for
well,
any
apart from entrepreneurs. Scott, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to add to the conversation, and I agree with both the gentlemen that just spoke. One of, but to answer your to add to the answer to your question, is who should look at being interested in this. I would say the chief executives of the larger companies, because uh, from 2009 to 2013, I was hired to do a turnaround for a small manufacturing company, about 20 employees that made fire trucks. And now that I have spent a lot more time studying IoT and smart manufacturing, I didn't have the access to those technologies back there. But I think my answer to your question would be smart manufacturing gives smaller companies a lot more competitive advantage to compete with the big manufacturing companies. Now, there's other technologies like, and especially on the R&D and innovation side, because the the sensors, the IoT sensors, and the software is a lot isn't as expensive as it used to be to deploy these items and get rapid feedback. You know, I had a technology company a few years ago. We developed technology. We used a methodology called Agile, and you wanted to fail quickly. And so, on the innovation process and in the value chain, on the early stages, it gives a much, it, it closes the gaps that big companies have over small entrepreneurial startups. So to me, smart manufacturing gives a new advantage to small entrepreneurs than the big companies who really had access to capital and economies of scale. Um, I think smart manufacturing gives a competitive advantage that, and it's not something that a lot of people really understand just how competitive it makes them right now.
Definitely sounds good. So I do see chief executives, a normal citizen, and definitely the entrepreneurs who can improve on the smart manufacturing industry. So Rahul, the next question is for you. So let's talk about, from your conversation, from what I've been reading about the manufacturing infrastructure that has been laid out is becoming obsolete probably. So probably the legacy system that was used, that was not interconnected, that didn't have any intelligence. And I don't know if some of the industries are still using the floppy disks. I feel I saw in one of the documentary or they were running on old systems, right? So my question is, if you can touch upon, might be technically a little bit about SCADA, the PLC, right? And is that the new system that's being used? But my ultimate question to you, Rahul, is when is the time to make a change for this new technology? When should a company decide, guys, come on, we need to catch up?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think me and Vivek will take this together. Let me go for the second question. See, the time is now, and if you look at it, you don't have to do a major investment if you're a manufacturing company, if you're a small startup and you manufacture something, or even if you're a large industry that manufactures something, and you have these core assets that manufacture. You have these, um, um, uh, these machines that have motors in them that are manufacturing whatever, right? Auto industry and so on. So today you have technologies such as wireless sensors, just like the doorbell that you mentioned, which you install yourself. You have technologies like wireless sensors that you can stick onto different assets. You can stick onto the motor of your big manufacturing CNC machine and so on. And then when you turn that device on through Wi-Fi, it connects to your application in your phone or on your PC, and it shows you the health status of that CNC machine. And now the health status means your CNC machine is green, you can run it. Or there's high vibration in the machine, and looks like you may need to do some maintenance on it. And again, I'm giving a very simplistic example, much like going back to the car. So these devices are there, they're very low cost. Setup time has come down. It doesn't take months and months to get your system and your machines connected to IoT and make them intelligent. And and then the last piece, you have thousands of machines. How do you possibly look at 1,000 of them and determine which one's failing, which one needs maintenance, and so on. You essentially that's the IoT system. You have sensorized all of them with these wireless sensors, or you've taken the sensor data from those machines. You bring them onto your application, and your application only alerts you which one needs attention. So it brings to you filtered, simplified knowledge to make some actions. And this is the basic. This is step one. Step two is the application will also tell you what you need to do. This machine has high vibration, you should do something about it. Step three is it'll also tell you that here is how you should maintain this machine going forward, much like your car. Do an oil change every 3,000 miles, inflate your tire pressure every 3 months. These are maintenance recommendations. So when you follow all of this, your cost of manufacturing will go down, your cost of maintenance of those machines which you have invested huge amount in goes down, and your productivity goes up, and the operator now doesn't need to focus 10 hours on maintenance and repair, and he can actually focus on how do I improve the efficiency of manufacturing and so on. So it's giving the maintenance crews and the operators uh, ability to go focus on where it really matters, not on things that MLAI and IoT can address. I'll also ask Vivek to chime in, because this is
Sure.
your forte. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think it's a really relevant question, but I had to smile at your question because it's a little bit of a pain point. I must say it's some point because of legacy, right? Um, it is, let me compare it to the smartphone, right? The smartphone we have today, right? It's really capable of a lot of things. It's like a mini computer able to do many different things, right? But what was the phone maybe 15, 20 years back? We just talk on it, right? It's similar with the controller capability today in automation. So in the past, I mean, I talked about the industrial revolution and transformation. Obviously those automation systems back then were limited in their communication, right? So they were not so-called smart controllers, take the analogy of the phone. So if you have, say, a production which is consisting of legacy equipment and so on, you may not be able to connect it 100% in terms of getting all the required data, but there are some workarounds, right? There's some workarounds. You can connect sensors. You can uh, have different, getting data, whether the machine is running or not, very simple data. So I also relate this back to your first question, like who needs it, right? And my answer is everybody needs it, because the guys who don't jump on this train now will be left behind, unfortunately, right? Because it's a journey and you learn from that journey, and everyone learns from his own experience and his own environment. And if you don't start today, and it doesn't need to be a big investment, it can be really a small investment. You can buy a Raspberry Pi for $100 and connect your machines, right? So so basically, uh, yes, it's the legacy thing is a little bit of a challenge to get all the data, but then as your equipment gets retrofitted or you buy new machines, you're able to get better and better, doing those things which Rahul mentioned, in, making your production more profitable. Because when you buy machines and capital equipment, you want them running, you want them to be as productive as possible, and not be thinking about, oh, when do I have to make the next maintenance change. You want to be notified automatically by the data, and these are all the things that really drive this industry 4.0.
Definitely. And I want to acknowledge Ratan Babinani for making some comments in our chat session. So he does say adaptation of technology is an ongoing process, not a destination. Agree? Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ratan. Thank you, Ratan, for listening in, and thank you for your feedback. Shaju and Devan, I want to go back to both of you, since you've worked in Confederation of Indian Industries. Is why now? And I think I heard the answer partly from Vivek and from Rahul and from Scott is If not now, then you're never not going to be in the competitive. You're not going to be competitive. But you also talked about people don't know what smart manufacturing. Vivek and Rahul did talk about it's not huge an investment, but they are from Siemens and Honeywell, right? But what about those small manufacturing plants? Should How should they get? Is this time for them to start thinking? Otherwise, they'll be left behind. Both of you can take this question up.
Yeah,
Devan,
I
you go
think,
first. Okay, go
yeah,
ahead. Devan, go ahead.
So let me give some anecdotal, points also. So way back in 2018, we took a delegation of Indian entrepreneurs, professionals to Germany at the Hanover Messe event. And Hanover Messe typically would have the best of technology showcased over there. And we also met the platform industry 4.0 folks who had been running the program, and through them we basically we met companies, large, mid, and small sized German companies, who were, as I say, on various parts of the journey. They had not obviously achieved it. As you know, it's a journey, it's not destination. So we went and met about 4 to 5 companies, and we realized that most of those companies, no matter what the size was, they were thinking about it. And just as it was, it's right now, the time is right now. So they knew about it. Now in our case, there was a lot of confusion between automation and smart manufacturing, at least for the ones that are more mature, because the more mature industries in India understand automation, but still they are yet to understand 4.0. So it was a good view for them, the message show. And what we are seeing is that the large OEMs in India, they have now sort of inculcated the fact that okay, this is going to happen. So they've started looking at their own facilities. They've started now also talking to the tier ones, and subsequently the tier ones will talk to the tier twos, tier threes, tier fours. So that's how I'm seeing the progression of this particular trend in India. And if you look at it, the most of the manufacturers I went to in around Delhi, Bangalore, again, the more well-read knew about it. Maybe the ones that were a little scared of what happened to the jobs, they were scared about it. So there is a variety of emotions that's playing around in the Indian manufacturer's mind. And you also got to see, a lot of manufacturers in India build to the order. They build to order. And if you look at it, a lot of other manufacturers around the world, they build to innovate. So there is a change in mentality and mindset also that we need to bring about in India, specifically to take it India as a use case, where entrepreneurs need to come out of their comfort, just like you are doing today. You're interviewing us, you're talking to us about smart manufacturing without having a background. They need to come out of their comfort zone and try to understand what's happening, because they need to realize that if they don't, then they won't exist.
Definitely. So Shaju and Scott, Shaju, change doesn't
yeah.
happen
I want
quickly.
to add what Devan has been talking. There are two aspects which I have been interacting with the small and medium enterprises, especially
Yes.
giving them various kind of master classes and inviting many of the people who have been working, especially from Siemens, Bosch, and companies like that. And they used to approach these small and medium enterprises and giving them the way ahead. What they have to do. Two things which are worrying the small and medium enterprises are, one is the cost aspect. When you have to take a step further, there is a huge cost involvement is there. So they have to seek some sort of a fiscal, incentives from the government, or how to go about it. The cost aspect actually, is a worrying thing. Second is the security aspect. The data they have to manage through cloud, and everything is digitally connected. So most of them are working in silos. They have to integrate their systems as well as their data with a huge network of conglomerate and other things. So their worry is that this data theft can happen. The cyber security challenges are there. So these are the two things which are worrying the MSME, the small and medium enterprises in India. So, but they have to, as we have been, everybody is discussing about, you have to do it, otherwise you will not have a future. So this is something which everybody knows about. You have to do it, especially when the transition happen. You have to you have to become more competitive in the global market. You have to adopt the technology and transform, and the best technology has to be adopted. So this is accepted by everybody, but how to do that, that is the challenge which we are working towards.
Very well said. And that is a perfect segue for my question to Scott, is right. So, Scott, it's not just enough to come up with a great product idea, right? You have to design the manufacturing even very quickly. But I guess we all agreed, and probably everybody agrees that digitalization is the key, right? Probably to doing this. But my question is, I would like you to talk about in your county level, what does the aura look like from the manufacturers? Is every manufacturing situation different, or is there a consistently best place that you're starting to see them implementing smart manufacturing equipment and practices, or they're still adapting to the idea, just like what Shaju said back home in India?
Sh- I'm I'm probably a little biased because in my work history, I have always worked with small companies. But some of these, and again, I will
And it's
admit,
fine. We want to hear from your perspective because, again, you're from the county, Forsyth
it.
County. Hmm.
I just feel like it's easier to implement something like this, smart manufacturing processes early on in a smaller organization than a really large organization. And that's what I was meaning earlier by giving a small manufacturer a very competitive process. So I'm seeing it in a lot of our small companies more so than our bigger companies because it's you've got a manufacturing process that has been working for so long. It's it has to be deployed on a much larger basis, whereas we have small companies that have some tech talent and we have some engineering talent, and they make a product and they can do the innovation, the new designs very quickly, and integrate that into their processes on a larger level. And then typically what happens is they get bought out by a larger company who then takes that information and then establishes it across the enterprise.
Definitely. Sounds, yes. Thank you so much for your insight, Scott. A very thoughtful insight that if it's a small company, then start now,
Mhm.
right? There's
Yeah.
less of complications and pain points. So, Rahul, I see you saying, yeah. I do want you to chime into that, but my next question for you, Rahul, is probably related as well. So, how can a company strategically position itself in this new competitive environment?
No, absolutely. And I was itching to jump onto that and answer it because I think
Please do.
the lessons that we've learned in the last 10 years, if the society and the ones who are listening can benefit from it, that's the goal here. So look, if you're a 10 people small company that has these 5 machines that manufacture valves, for example, that's it. I make valves for the automobile industry, and I'm a 10-person company. I'm in Atlanta or I'm in Delhi. That's my starting point. I have these machines that are 10 years old. There is, if you go on Google and you do search, you will find there are sensors and there are IoT applications that are now so much democratized that the cost has come down significantly. For example, there are companies that are selling these sensors that they'll ship it to you in the mail. You ask for 10 vibration sensors, 10 temperature sensors, 10 acoustic sensors. Your cost will be, let's say, $1,000. They ship to your home, and you can monitor those 10 machines that you have that are your bread and butter. Because if one machine fails, then you cannot deliver your valves on time. So now you can monitor all 10 of them, and a simple web page opens up on your computer where those sensors are connected, and you can look at the health of those machines. In one go, you can look at the vibration, the temperature, the lube oil condition, all of that, right? So now your job has become so simplified, and you can now rely on that software to look at when the machine needs maintenance. You can now also anticipate that, hey, it looks like, my vibration is becoming high. It looks like lathe number 10 is going to fail. Okay, maybe I need to have some spare parts. Maybe I need to order a spare turret in advance. That way, the moment it fails, I can replace it quickly. Basic, simple things, doesn't need any massive IoT education degree schooling, not a big investment. And this is the crawl, walk, run approach. You start crawling with this basic package. Then you say after 2 years, 3 years, hey, you know what? Good. I want to get the next level of efficiency from my 10 machines. How do I do that? So the IoT packages get advanced as you want. And so for the smaller entrepreneurs, small companies, and so on, that's the way to begin, and begin now. And you'll see your productivity go up. You'll see your cost of manufacturing come down. You'll be able to take more orders. You'll be able to churn out more parts and components. You'll have less failures. Just your quality of life will get better running your business. As simple as that.
Very well said. I like the point that you said starting points, right? So you sort of gave a roadmap to how the starting points of how a company can embark upon a digital strategy. So they have to start. Yeah. So thanks, Rahul. My next question is for Vivek. And then I do want to go to Devan for the next question after Vivek. Vivek, so my question is, based on your experience with Siemens, how are IoT, IIoT, and smart manufacturing reshaping other companies who are important to your industry, right? What Siemens does. How are they reshaping your customers, your partners, your competitors? So do you actually see that you implemented a new initiative and then you hear the competitors, so do you see that happening, which is good, which is good, healthy competition? it, you're on mute, Vivek, please.
I'm sorry.
No
Okay, can you hear
problem.
me now?
Yes.
All right. So the way, I mean, specifically to Siemens, the way we approach is, I mean, we are both. We are a manufacturing company. We manufacture a lot of things. At the same time, we also provide, say, IoT kind of solutions or smart manufacturing solutions for other companies. So, so basically, we drink our own champagne. We know how it works, right? So that way, we try to take what we learn from our manufacturing facilities and help our customers or partners to benefit from this by using our products. At the same time, we are also engaged in so-called community projects because for us it's important that it's not only about using Siemens products, it's about enabling manufacturers. It's just I mean, take the example of the electric car, right? There's not going to be only one car. There's not only going to be a Tesla, whatever. It's going to be an ecosystem that needs to be created, and in this ecosystem, it will consist of partners, competitors, suppliers of various sensors, controllers, IoT systems, and so on. So that's the way we work, and yeah, I think I've seen that, especially after the pandemic, there's even more drive. I think Saji, you mentioned it. So we see that a lot of people are trying to go to this path, and yeah, it's making faster progress than I would say year or two back now.
Very well said. Very good. Thank you so much. So, Devin, of course, you can chime in to the previous question, but also I wanted to touch upon the global strategies, right? That is being led by different countries. Vivek touched upon it, Industry 4.0, and then China has Made in China 2025, and Japan is Society 5.0, and then United States has Industrial Internet Connection. But I would love to hear your thoughts. I mean, do they all have something in common from your thoughts, because I know you were leading the CII smart manufacturing in India.
Sure. So, we did some research around this. So we found that several countries around the world have got their dedicated programs on manufacturing, out of which they focus a lot on smart manufacturing as well. So if you look at it, Germany has Platform Industry 4.0, Sweden has Production 2030, France has the Alliance for Smart Manufacturing, USA has Manufacturing USA, and then we have countries like Italy, Netherlands, Spain, who've got budgets, who've got dedicated budgets, outlined. Even in India, we have something called Samarth Udyog, which means like a good industry or a perfect industry. So what we're trying to do over here also is to make sure that people know about what smart manufacturing is, and they can have access to resources, people, uh, intelligence around smart manufacturing and best ways for adoption.
Very nice.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so what we see typically is that it's a government led, or it's mostly industry led, but government funded or co-funded initiative that we see around the world. In India also, if you look at it, Siemens is a big champion for smart manufacturing in India. And if you look at the big corporates like Hero, Mahindra, we see the auto industry has really taken to it in a large way in India. And, from material traceability to resource efficiency, there are thousands of use cases that we see in India already. And, in India also, a lot of the manufacturers, large manufacturers have started small. They may focus on their the prototyping bit, or they may focus on the material efficiency bit, but they've started. And they've started with projects with defined timelines, and they're working on it. Mahindra, I know for a fact that we've got case studies that we've published to the public for other manufacturers to learn from, because it's going to happen if everyone comes onto the ecosystem. There's no point in just one person or one stakeholder being on the ecosystem, the rest not.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Devan. That's helpful. So, Shaju, my next question is for you, right? So, of course, we can all talk about smart manufacturing. It can be made possible, but also it has to have standards, right? And when it has to have standards, that means good communication needs to be there. There has to be interconnectedness of equipment, people, and processes, which is not very easy, right? So, in order to create a dynamic and competitive marketplace, I'm sure you come across many business owners or business manufacturing sectors in your role in the state. So, how I don't want to ask how smart are they. I want to ask how smart are we? Basically, do you think we are getting there, or it's going to take many years to get there? Because again, it's a variety of integration, and we'll definitely talk about leadership and people and the culture. What are you seeing? How smart are we?
Yeah, it is already, the pace is gradually picking up. And I was just reading and analyzing the investment which is happening, especially in the smart manufacturing. A lot of companies, especially from the German companies, have set up R&D centers and also center of excellence. Tied up with the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, they have set up a kind of training as well as the R&D center for IoT, IIoT kind of. And Bombay also, there is a couple of centers have been initiated. So that process is already, started 3-4 years ago. Huge investment has been going, and government is also giving support to that kind of, promoting the facilities for, so that it is picking up. So the interaction between the private-public partnership for the digitalization as well as the process of smart manufacturing, which has to go to the every aspect of the different sectors who have been using the technology, high-end technology. Uh, so that is one of the major thing which is and the another aspect is the labor laws have been in many of the states in India have been tweaking the labor laws. We had a very stringent and archaic kind of labor laws which was restricting many of the companies to embark high-end technologies which will can displace many of the labors. So there were restrictions from the state government as because of the democracy and political considerations. The government was also a little wary about the loss of employment because of the technology. So the labor laws and the government has understood that unless we are not transforming, our productivity has not been increasing. We are not attaining the competitiveness. The India's that Hindu rate of growth, especially when we are talking about last, that will sustain and we won't be able to make much inroads in the international market. So this realization has gone very deep into the planning mechanism as well as the government of India. So the Make in India concept, which has been brought out by the current government, which is giving a lot of consideration of improving the efficiency of many of the companies. So when Mr. Rahul was talking about the cost aspect, the adopting, I wanted to know more about that because many of the companies I am dealing with, especially for suggesting them to adopt the technology as well as the so there, one of the concern is this, the cost aspect. So when he was talking about the cost is not much, So I wanted to know more about that if he can throw more light on.
Before
Absolutely.
Rahul takes it, I just want to give a feedback. Sharmita, who's also listening to our session, is also around the Bangalore area, Shaju, and so she does say, especially specific to what you just said, she does say small industries can't always afford a smart manufacturing solution.
Yeah.
Automation and data exchange are still a big thing in many small industries worldwide.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rahul.
No, in a brief nutshell, there are these on-premise applications that don't need connectivity to the cloud that just stay within your small 10 person company, or it's called on-premise, and there are these sensors that can work with that capability. There are many startups that are offering this itself, and they're growing at literally at blitz scale because they are now becoming very competitive. If, for example, if the big industries like Siemens and Honeywell did this historically, it would cost more. Now that cost is coming down for monitoring your assets. And what I can do, Shaju, is offline on LinkedIn, message you with a couple of these
Yeah.
uh, uh, companies that exist in India that are from India, and hopefully that could help you in the journey.
Yeah,
What a great idea. Maybe Shaji should invite all these panelists to a FICCI organized
yeah,
Karnataka's. And look, Scott is like,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'll,
I'm ready.
I'll be the first one
You
on the
see,
plane.
there you go. There you go. So the next question, Devin, were you going to say
Yeah,
something?
just wanted
So,
to
yeah.
just to add to that, because we understand the pain of SMEs. So what we did at CII, we tried to create a maturity model for smart manufacturing, which basically told you, what is where you are currently, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10 on various parameters, and what it would take for you to get from 1 to 10. And obviously, it may not necessarily mean that you need to reach 10 right away, but if you want to reach to step two, how do you do that? So that tool is now live, and the CI folks are running it. They're running it with, I think, partnership with TUV Sud. So if people want to just check that out, that's available on smartmfgindia.com.
Very nice. Thank you so much for that info, Dev, and I'm sure people are checking it out. Scott and Vivek, these are like team tag questions, for any initiative, whether in the government or a huge corporate sector, always the organizational culture, the leadership management matters. Yeah. Because no matter how much the employees or the workforce can do, unless having worked in a county government, I know unless the commissioners approved and they became a champion, that's when the product will come to a fruition, right? Otherwise, it all goes to waste down the drain. So I'm sure it's the same approach even in your role as well. My question is, how do we break down the functional silos to ensure that the information technology and the operational technology are working together effectively. So either Scott, as a consultant, how did you do that? But Vivek, to a further question on top of that is, what leadership styles and structures will an organization need to make a smart organization?
I can take that if that's okay with Vivek.
Yes.
So I'll give you a little history. So my role in the Chamber of Commerce is because I have a technology background where I had a company that actually produced software. And then I have a management background because I ran a manufacturing company that I led out of bankruptcy. They hired me in Forsyth County to recruit industry. And so what we did, what actually created the role that I'm in, is every 5 years we go through a process of doing a strategic plan. Where do we want to be in 5 years? And one of those, because we have the highest concentration of technology workers in our area, technology was going to be a top component of the companies that we recruit. And so it broke down into we hired a consulting company to help us bring together different stakeholders from around the community, political leaders, the school systems, and of course a lot the business community. And so as a group we came together and we came up with this plan, and we want to recruit technology. But how do you define technology? I mean, there's companies like a hospital. A hospital technology is huge. So we really broke it down as we don't want to just make it so open ended. There's communities around us, uh, just south of us in Alpharetta. Fintech is a big industry that they focus on. And so what we decided to do was emerging technologies. And I wanted to bring this up because it will answer your question, Nazira, but if you'll bear with me for like 2 more minutes. But what we did is we focused on emerging technologies. And so we went through a process of educating. I get out and speak quite a bit on emerging technologies, and it started out with IoT because IoT was a big topic of discussion a couple of years ago when we started doing this plan. It was really industry 4.0. But as I broke it down and started educating myself, because it was new to me, what I realized was it's really industry 4.0 is actually more about three technologies. It's AI, artificial intelligence, it's IoT, but it's also blockchain. And a lot of people think of blockchain as cryptocurrencies and bitcoins, and that's not the case. Bitcoin is a product that runs on a blockchain. And if I could explain it, IoT sensors gives data. AI give helps decision making processes with that data. But blockchain with smart contracts and things that's baked into the code allows automation to happen. And so those three things themselves create an ecosystem that really produces the efficiencies that we talk about in smart manufacturing and industry 4.0. So I had to get out. Now, to answer your question, I had to get out and speak to our local business community before we actually started recruiting industry, having to educate the community, the business leaders, the stakeholders. They had agreed, yes, we want to recruit emerging technologies, but what does that look like? And so I had to be the voice to go out and speak to the civic clubs. I had to speak to the principals at the school system. I had to go to the colleges and actually speak to the business schools, because these are such emerging technologies 2 years ago that most of the professors teaching in the business school really didn't understand the implications of adding sensors to a value chain, or adding smart contracts to the process of automation. And so it became a first step was an internal communication, and then as a community then we go out and we recruit industry there, because what we've done is we've set up incubators for through the education system, through the technical colleges and through the universities, to recruit those industries. And so the answer to your question is I had to educate the community on what these individual emerging technologies are that encapsulate smart manufacturing as a whole.
Wow, thank you so much, Scott, for that background. It really explains to a normal, common listener who's listening to our session today. Vivek, in response to the what just Scott said, sometimes even within your own company, a change is hard for anyone, right? And especially, did you all go through a change management issues or a change management program? And not just a simple strong, it should be a change management, because you're changing the management thoughts, perspectives into this smart manufacturing project.
Yeah, for sure. It's not only within Siemens, even with our customers, where we also consult our customers for IoT transformation. We feel, especially also for the bigger enterprises, it has to be a top-down approach. Why? Because of those challenges. One is in terms of mindset, doing something different is always a problem, whether it's wrong or right, right? So there's a pushback and also concerns because new technologies. So it's also about enabling people, and that's a big one, especially people who are, say, used in operating a machine, for example, in a conventional method, and they're now overwhelmed with all the IT stuff, so to say, where, like you said, like how the operations merge with the IT. So, and it changes there's the whole thing drives changes in the processes, right? So you need to involve management. uh, the buy-in is needed, and only then will it really work. So, but I feel at the same time you need a top-down approach. You also need a kind of a bottom-up approach, in the sense of really the people on the manufacturing floor to understand the benefits they will have. It's not that sometimes there's misconception, oh, someone is trying to monitor me or something like that, right? So that's also an issue sometimes. But if you really show them how they can be enabled, and what we do is we do that in terms of so-called proof of concept. So we say, okay, you can try it practically free of charge, see for yourself, try a proof of concept, maybe with one or two machines, and see what is the return of invest for this, for example, right? What are your savings in terms of better productivity, machine downtime, really in terms of dollars? So this is also about the starting point, right? What you mentioned. So if companies can be shown that they have this real ROI of that they will get the invest back at some point of time, it makes things a lot more easier. So this has been our experience, and but yeah, I mean, there's, besides the technical stuff, there's a lot of mindset, process related topics that need to be addressed, and it takes time. It's not going to happen from day one to day two that things will change. It's really a process, and that's why a roadmap that Scott talked about is extremely important, to define a roadmap, define milestones, what do you want to achieve for those milestones, and follow up with those milestones, and have this internal commitment from the management side behind that.
Very well said, Vivek. Definitely bottom up and up bottom too. So definitely top to bottom. So Devan, this question is for you, and Rahul, I'm coming right after with a question to you. So Devan, my question is, with IoT, fewer human in the communication loop, that means, right? And that means only very few humans will be participating in the manufacturing and logistical application, and more automation is going to happen between machine to machine transactions, which we've been talking about. Now the question is, what does that mean to human jobs?
Okay, so that's a very controversial topic, and we found that in India, especially, people because in India, if you look at it, there is uh, there is a very strong labor force that there is in manufacturing. So once when it comes to that, people think, at least in their mind, they think that okay, we're going to automate everything, then what will happen to us? So it's a I'm not going to say it's an easy path, and the government is very well aware of it. There are a lot of programs that they are thinking of currently in terms of reskilling, because in its own mind, I mean, as the Indian government, if you look at what the priorities are for industry 4.0, it's just not for companies to inculcate 4.0, but it's for India to become a source of 4.0. So I'm sure all other countries would also be doing it, but for India, it's the software that goes into it. Since we have a strong software development backbone, you know India wants software to be developed in India. It's also trying to make sure that the hardware in some shape or form is also manufactured in India. Don't know how far along we will be successful on that route, but at least from the software bit, we're trying to do that. So we feel, and the Indian government feels that there may be a shift in the nature of job. So it could be that people move from the line to the tech companies who are actually making these softwares, and that's how we're looking at it.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for giving a deep explanation on that one. So, Rahul, let's talk about data. Shaju brought this up briefly earlier. And very easily we can always say, like, Google and Amazon has all our data, right? I bet Google knows what I buy, what my children buy, and they've sort of reconstructed the family structure. This is what they're after. So, data is very important. I understand that, and can be moved and analyzed. And of course, with connected technology, a lot more things can happen. So my question to you is, what growth opportunities exist for manufacturers that maximize the use of their data? And I bet, not even being in that field, that many percentage are not even using that data yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are some rough numbers, but there's growth in multiple segments possible. So first is that your cost of maintenance of your core industrial equipment or your capital equipment drops by about 10 to 15% annually, um, and until it reaches some level of entitlement. So, for example, if you're spending $5,000 on a annual basis to maintain your assets, you can expect that if you go with the, IoT solutions, 5 to 10% drop you will experience in that maintenance, because you will realize that you're over maintaining an asset where you don't need to maintain, or you're under maintaining an asset where you need to maintain, and because of that you had some loss. So that gets optimized. That's one piece. The second is that your worker productivity goes up. So what that means is that in developing countries where keeping jobs is important, your workers can then focus on areas which are more important, and you can prioritize their work because they have more hours, because some portion of their job, which was maintaining an asset by hand or doing an inspection on a regular basis physically, that gets eliminated. So now the workers can focus on maybe more, the management can figure out where they focus. While in developed countries like Germany and so on, they may want less workers they may want more automation, so it supports that. So from a productivity perspective, up to 20 to 30% additional productivity. If your worker spends 8 hours doing something, now he can do it in 5 hours, which means he can do more work in the 3 hours that's freed up because he's using IoT or he's using smart manufacturing. So these are just some of the the two areas where there's value added. There are many more depending on the scale. My mind is still focusing on a small scale industrial, but the bigger you go into automobile manufacturing and so on. There are multiple areas of benefit, including increased output, reduced downtime, What does that mean to how many cars can you roll out on an annual basis? Instead of 5,000 now, because I have IoT, I can roll out 6,000 cars on an annual basis. That then increases your profitability. You're able to sell more. You're able to expand, and so on. So it puts you on the track. It doesn't happen tomorrow. It's a journey. You start tomorrow, you see some small amount of savings, and then you invest more and you go deeper into IoT, you see some more savings, then you can expand your business and so on. So crawl, walk, run approach is the mantra here. Don't jump into and invest heavily. Start with a proof of concept on your critical assets, that where you spend the most amount. Say that I spend $10,000 maintaining this machine. I want to spend 9,000 next year. How do I do that? Let me find an IoT solution that helps me. If it works next year, okay, now I'm going to do this on the 10 other machines that I have, and so on. Scale it that way.
Very well said. Thank you, Rahul. The next question is for Shaju, but Rahul, as a lead in your company on IoT, what are one or two of the pain points that you've seen? Is your team going through a change management program?
So look, IoT is all about change management. Just like Vivek mentioned, it's a revolution. It started with the steam industrial, then you went to the electricity, then you went to the internet revolution, and now you're in the industrial internet revolution. It's a change management, cultural change every single place. Your biggest resistance is internally from your own company. That's what's happening here. The biggest resistance, if you go to this big company, you go to Mahindra and say, Mahindra, you need to become digital all over. Everyone needs to adopt digital. The biggest resistance will be from the internal company, and that's human nature, because they've been doing work in a certain way the last 20 years. And it's working well. It's generated profits, it's generated growth, but they want the next level of growth. Hey, we've been at 10% growth year over year. We need to get to 15. You're never going to get to 15 if you don't go IoT. If you're happy with 10%, keep doing the way you are. You'll become obsolete in 10 years. Somebody else will come and eat your pie. So it is important that you begin this journey, and the biggest resistance is internal adoption, change management, cultural change. And the simple example is when the iPhone came out, there are certain people who stood in line outside the sales office to buy the iPhone. But there were certain people who waited 2 years to get the iPhone, right? So that you can see the adoption curve. Somebody wants to jump on it tomorrow. Somebody wants to be like, let them use it, let them tell me how it goes, and then I'll buy it. So it's that adoption which is the biggest challenge for IoT, and because the senior leadership invests, but then the ones who are using it don't adopt it, and it's a waste. So you have to make sure that you do it as a crawl, walk, run approach. Give them a teaser, let them become vested in it, let the operators start using it on one machine, let the operators come back saying, hey, you know what, we should do this on all of them. And you want to do it on all of them, but you ask your operators to come up with suggestions and so on. That's how you play the game to scale this for your industry.
Very well said. Thank you, Rahul. Definitely, I understand the late adopters or the laggers of any policies or equipment. So, thank you. So, Shaju, my question is just let's go in a little bit detail about what Rahul just said, the people, the team, right? How should the team responsible for this IoT or smart manufacturing implementation look like, right? Do they have to have certain skill sets? Or should be the organizational structure should change, the mindset, attitude, understanding the culture. My question is, what skills are required for these specialized roles? What advice would you give? The reason I keep coming back to these questions to you is because you're seeing them almost every day as the lead in that Karnataka state, or most of these owners or leaders, right? So is also our culture ready for that big change? So number one is, what specialized skill sets do they need? Is the culture ready for this big change? Number third is there enough trust between you all and the suppliers, or the manufacturing industries and the suppliers and the consumers? You're on mute, Shaju. If you can unmute, I had muted you earlier because there was some disturbance.
Yeah. Can you hear now?
Yes.
I have, when I was, Rahul was talking about the data management, some of the best technology companies which has emerged in India as unicorns. This year there are around 27 unicorns, which has, and recently one, the Zomato has gone and they have registered in Bombay Capital Market and oversubscribed. And there are many more which are coming. So the technology innovation, the new companies which is coming, is adopting this technology, and also they are very successful. But the old companies who have been traditionally manufacturing the same practice which has been going on, they are reluctant to adopt the technology. They have been gradually observing these things, and we are trying to, help them and also hand holding them and creating an environment which, facilitate them to transition. Also, their fears and concerns have been addressed, and technology experts comes. So there are different segment of, the industry is there. So what I have observed is that the new companies which are coming as startups or technology driven companies, which are successful in adopting this, the IIoT or digitalization, cloud management, all these things, and they take the benefit of it. Within 2 3 years of time, they become, a multi-billion, companies. But as far as the old companies are concerned, they are still going in the same pace. There are restrictions, and the management is also reluctant to adopt the technology. So that is the pain point, and we are trying to address this. The thing which, whatever we industry associations, FICCI, CII, NASCOM, there is a technology association based company. We collaborate each other and also bring out the technology which is helpful for these companies to transition. So there is a, deep-rooted concern among the old companies out there, but the new companies which are, adopting this technology and very successful. So there is, the category of the old and new still exists as far as the manufacturing.
So, Shaju, as you were talking, you were reminding me so much of me and my daughter. Yeah. So, my daughter says she's on Snapchat and Facebook is for the old generation. I listen to music on Pandora and she's like, huh, that's old. We listen in, I think she said Spotify. So I feel like I'm the one who's not adapted and I should start adapting to the current methodologies. But so definitely, yes, an open mind is really good. So Scott and Devan, if you all can team tag on this question, and then Vivek, I'm coming to on a security question to you later. So let's talk about actual technology, right? So we just said technology, and as I was reading about it, the augmented reality, virtual reality, AI, robots, cobots, IIoT, big data analytics, machine learning, all that, right? So the key questions to ask is like, does our network infrastructure, either in Forsyth County or somewhere in New Delhi, support cloud in all locations, right? And even we are talking about broadband connections in the rural area. So if they're not fast enough to adopt there, it's gonna intervene on production and data flow. So talk to us about that. I want to hear from both the ends. Even because I'm not saying US is perfect. We have our own no broadband area. There are lack of those. So how do we address those?
Scott, would
Uh,
you like to go first?
go ahead.
No, no, okay. Okay. So, I mean, it's very simple. So, the feedback that we've got over here in India is like, I'll just give you my own example. I've just got a 1,000 Mbps line like 1 week ago. Before that, my network that I used to get over here was 40 Mbps. So, you can imagine I'm in New Delhi, which is the capital of India. I'm in a pretty good neighborhood. Still, the situation is like that. So just now extrapolate, let's say a cluster somewhere, in the corner of the world, uh, you know, the kind of challenges they have. And similarly on power. So, in India, power generation, while it's getting better, but, you know, factories have to mostly run on gensets. So, it's going to be challenging, obviously, to run an even higher load of number of electronics and all that. So, it's definitely a challenge. And from a policy perspective, we've at least suggested to the government that they should take this on priority. They should focus on the manufacturing clusters around India, and they should try to improve the situation and enable, give the enabling factors of Industry 4.0 faster, sooner over there.
So, Devan Shaju, in quick 10 seconds, I think even before the step one of investment and having data connectivity and cloud and sensor and all that, which is troublesome for the industries in India, there's something called reliability centric maintenance, which is simply a software. It's simply an application. Doesn't need any connectivity, doesn't need any sensors, extremely low cost. It's like a software that you have on your phone. And what that does is it's kind of the step one of really helping you begin your IoT journey, and that could be the way to for the folks on the call worried about the high cost of investment and so on. Reliability centric maintenance software, plenty available all over the world, and these softwares will guide you to how to maintain your assets in a way where they are very efficient, and then get some productivity from it. And whatever savings you have, invest those savings into the next level, which is let me buy some sensors and so on. So that would be my 50,000 feet recommendation to the
You
industry.
actually hit the nail on the head. I tell you, from 2016 onwards in India, there have been a dearth of use cases, and we were one of the first people to build the compendium of use cases, and we've gone ahead and done I don't know how many now programs, hundreds of programs in various small clusters, and I think this needs more amplification. I mean, we have come on a journey. Every day we come to get to know new stuff, and you can imagine, right, with people who have that mindset of maybe I'm don't fix anything that's not broken. So, you can imagine the number of times you have to talk to them and tell them. So, for example, this particular thing, I think I knew about it, but then, it didn't occur to me the first second itself.
Yeah,
So,
it
so I
needs
think,
very basic investment of just a software application on your computer. That is it. That is it. Rest, just the management needs to push, but no sensors, no cloud, no infrastructure cost, nothing to works on old assets, new assets. Step one, easy for the Indian industry, big, large, small. Start with that, and then from there begin the rest of your journey. That's what I would recommend
yeah.
if investment is a challenge. Yeah,
Great
And that's
insight.
exactly why we build the model, the maturity model. And that's the
yeah,
first question actually we ask,
yes,
in terms of who's planning Industry 4.0? I mean, obviously, this is one of the questions that we also ask. Who's planning Industry 4.0?
yeah,
Is it part of the KPIs of the people? For example, in Bharat Phone, it is part of the KPIs of people to think of smart manufacturing. So
yes,
it's part of the KPIs of the manufacturing people. So,
Very
there
nice.
are things that are happening like this
yeah.
over here.
Go ahead, Scott. I don't know if you remember the question.
Yeah. What I'm currently there's three things going on in my life right now that is relevant to the answer to your question. So one, I just recently bought a house, and in that house, Rahul would really appreciate this. But it's a smart home. We have the Honeywell smart sensors through the house, the thermostats. But in that home, there's no less than 30 different sensors that do 4 or 5 operations. One of those is the Ring doorbell that you were talking about, Nazira. I recently bought a car. The car has 22 computers on it, the salesman told me. And then I'm currently working with an organization that we're doing a program, and I would like to invite you guys to participate in that. But it's on August 26th. But it's about smart cities. It's still, even though the conversation here is about smart industry, it's still IoT sensors. And where I'm going with this, to answer your question, is if I have a, a new car, it has 22 computers on it. Those computers are about to start talking to the traffic lights. Most people I have a home that has 30 sensors in it. Well, for us to communicate, we have two choices right now with this data. It either goes across the cellular network or it has to go directly wired into a hardwire into cable that ultimately is the internet. If we're not hardwired into the internet, then it goes across the cellular. So we're moving into the 5G in the 5G world where um, the latency for a car to be able to communicate with a traffic signal has to be there, and car to car for it to be to do the not to be a safety hazard. I could go on and on and on about this, but just to give you an example, I know several people who carry two cell phones. I have five wearables, or some wearables. I have a smartwatch. I have the cell phone. So as we get into a concentrated area, say of an industrial park or a smart cities where there's 4 million people with all these sensors, just the mass data that is going across the infrastructure, it has to be changed. Um, we're looking at in the smart cities movement, um, placing it's called small cells in various locations just to handle all the data to get some of the traffic off of our phones and more closely connected to the internet quicker. You're looking at edge computing where you don't have to take all of that data that you're collecting and run across the internet. You can do some of the processing at the point of collection. And so with all the sensors that we're talking about here, the data that we're collecting is just increasing rapidly. It's you can only put so many cars on a freeway. Ultimately, you can put only so many bits and bytes on a system where you need it to communicate in milliseconds. You know, we're having to change that infrastructure. And even still in Georgia, in the closer you get to Atlanta, the better connection you have. But in many parts of Georgia, it's still extremely rural, and they don't even have access to the internet unless it is through a cell phone.
Definitely. So, since you're already speaking, Scott, two more questions that attendees had asked while they registered is: are any new manufacturing units being set up in Forsyth County? What are the immediate and long-term benefits? And then this is a very valid question. Since workforce is in shortage and people preferring to work remote, how will this impact manufacturing? Okay, but if you can answer this question, here's the third question. And how is U.S. addressing the issue to get free from dependence on China? And yeah, this is one question that was asked.
Oh, oh, that was
And you
three
don't
questions.
have to answer all three.
Three questions. Which one were you? Which one's?
Are any manufacturing units being set up in Forsyth County?
Yes, yes. That is my role. My role is to recruit manufacturing companies to the area, and like I mentioned before, we our targets are healthcare, emerging technologies, and anybody that's working in um, some sort of aspect of high tech manufacturing. So it could be the manufacturing of sensors, it could be healthcare equipment, but yes, as a matter of fact, we don't have enough real estate being produced to accommodate the companies that are moving there right now. My role has shifted from recruiting companies to recruiting developers to develop industrial sites to be able to accommodate the companies that are working there, because we have the highest concentration of technology workers. And when executives are looking to move their companies, the first thing that they're looking for is, do I have the talent in that area? We have the talent, yes. We just are having a hard time keeping up with the demand of companies wanting to move to our area.
Okay. And do you see any shortage in workforce now that people are wanting to work remotely? Does this impact manufacturing?
We are talking to our manufacturers, and yes, we have a challenge of getting line employees. We have a lot of technologists that work in the software engineering and the engineering side, but we do have a challenge of getting you know people that were working during COVID, getting them back to the workplace.
Okay, sounds good. And Vivek, I'm coming to you. Hold on. This is a question that was asked. I want to make sure I address it. How is US addressing it, to get free from dependence on China, I guess, and same question, probably Devan can answer. The question continues, how India and the rest of the world are addressing this issue. I mean, I have many Chinese friends. It's nothing against China, but I guess it's a question that's asked. One of you.
I
I
would love
think
to hear how America is doing it because
I
Scott.
think I think the dependency of India to China has not come down, and the latest quarterly figures of the trade data shows that around 50-55 billion trade is happening with China, and the import from China is around 38 billion, and the remaining is the export from. So the terms of trade is working in favor of China again. We are closely depending China for the raw materials. The supplies have to come from China. So that predominant, that trade statistics shows that we are still, the China's, we depend on that. So I don't know. I mean, in which direction it is going to, because unless we are not internally developing the resources, the raw material, and the capacity, uh, this dependency will continue.
Any follow up for
that's
how US is addressing this issue, Scott?
Well, it's hard to answer this question without being political, and
Yeah, that's fine. Yes,
I
completely.
don't want to do that. Although I just have to say it has to come from the very top for us to. My biggest concern, having created software, my biggest concern is that a lot of our trade secrets are protected. Um, that's it has to come from our basically our president, whichever administration it is. It has to come from there to understand the impact that because not just trade secrets, but data protection.
Oh, awesome, definitely. That is a great segue to the question I had for Vivek, right? So, Vivek, compared to other forms where we've been hearing about it, having been in the county, I know what was the weak links in our cybersecurity system in the government, and we saw it happening with Equifax, with Target. But we don't hear much of IIoT or manufacturing industries being impacted or being attacked. Maybe one or few of like wiping attacks. So, is there a cybersecurity tasks a system set across for manufacturing or trading partners, or basically how secure is the IoT system when faced with outside threats in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I mean, I think one of the examples is the oil pipeline where we had a
Oh
cyber
yeah.
attack
Oh my
a few
gosh, I
times.
forgot about that. That's
Yeah,
true.
so
Yeah.
that was, we ourselves here in Foresight, we knew how much we were impacted 1 or 2 days, right? Those huge lines in front of the gas stations. So,
Oh my gosh,
so,
yes. Everybody was
so
like rushing to the gas stations. Yes.
yeah, so this is one of the threats one is exposed to when you connect your OT to IT, especially to the cloud. Your systems are exposed, right? And you have to take even more care that you are not vulnerable to these attacks. I mean, I can only talk from Siemens as a company. We have so called a 360-degree concept, which is on one hand making our products secure against attacks, um, and also how do you say against? I mean, we have point-to-point security connectivity where it's difficult to hack. I don't say it's completely impossible, but then there's also the topic of say operational security, which means I mean, how good are your employees, for example, ensuring that the operations are kept safe? Because finally, security fails at its weakest link, right? So, There are various ways, people have become very creative in hacking, using social media and all these things and targeting employees. So there's a lot of trainings we have on this internally to be able to address it. We Siemens are in a very delicate situation, being manufacturers of control equipment as well as IoT, so to ensure that we are resilient against such attacks. Yeah,
Very well
I hope
said.
that
Thank
answers
you.
your question.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Devan, my next question is also Sharmita has asked it earlier. So the cost, right? So how can these small business owners or small manufacturing companies cope up with price variations on in raw materials during these times of pandemic-like situations?
Well, if you look at the auto industry, it's a prime example. I know it's not an example of SME, but if you look at the steel prices, they have really shot up in the last 6 months. And if you look at companies, if you look at as an end user, the price of vehicles is going up, and it's significantly going up for the firms that have not invested in smart manufacturing. If you look at Maruti, Maruti is one of the in India is one of the leading PV manufacturers, and it's still trying to maintain its margins just because it's heavily invested into smart manufacturing. There is a new OEM that's on around the block called Ola Electric, and they have just initiated. I mean, they're basically just going to start their manufacturing facility near Hosur in Tamil Nadu, and they claim it to be completely a smart manufacturing setup. So people are very um, they know that the cost of raw materials always going to go up, so the pressure on margins always going to increase. So how can one reduce your operational manufacturing cost? That's the best way to go forward.
Okay, very well said. So before we come up with closing comments from each one of you, I definitely want to. I think we discussed it during the discussion, and I know it's like probably 10 o'clock for Shaju and Devan. So still, thank you, and I'm sure your baby's waiting, Devan, for you. I want to talk quickly about challenges and obstacles or hurdles, right? So I want each one of you to talk about one hurdle that we might have addressed already, but definitely one thing that I see is this what my customers will like, right? So definitely that's something that manufacturing should consider while going through this process. But I'll start with you, Scott. What are some of the top hurdles that you see? And if you can mention one, and then I would like each one of us to consider talk about, even if it is repetition.
To me, the biggest hurdle is, and I think one of the other panelists was talking about it earlier, maybe Rahul, but change management. The hardest part to get to implement change is when change isn't appeared to be needed. When a company is struggling in bankruptcy, or they've had a something terrible happen, a line to go down, it's easy to implement change when something that is absolutely necessary. The challenge with digital technologies is that change can happen so rapidly that you need to be adjusting to these type technologies before it's obvious that it's needed. And so um, having to implement change management processes into something that you don't have buy-in, that the absolute change is needed at that time, to me, that's the biggest hurdle.
Definitely, Shaju.
I find it in a different way. In Indian context, the pandemic has completely changed the priorities of the companies. Earlier, if it was in the pre-COVID period, the companies were accepting there is a need for optimizing their productivity channels and improving their, implementing various programs and technologies for improving productivity and attaining competitivity. The pandemic and the resultant slowdown which has happened actually changed their priorities. So we have to infuse more energy and confidence among the industry to adopt this, because if it is not, this situation may change, but you have to adopt your the technology transition has to happen. You have to bring out more optimum technology for improving the qualitative. So our challenge is to make the industry understand that you have to accept, you have to adopt. This is a temporary phase, we have to move on. So this is what we are doing. So that is our major challenge.
Very nice. Thank you. Devin?
So, my colleagues touched upon people from a company perspective and change management. I think it's for me personally, it's going to be people on the country perspective, from a country perspective, from a policy perspective. I think that it's going to be really challenging for people for how employability will change. So you need to make people employable, and I think that should be a focus area for governments going
Very nice.
forward.
Scott, what is one? So I already Scott answered. Vivek, what is one of the top hurdles in smart
Yeah,
manufacturing?
I mean, I think just to continue what my other fellow panel speakers were saying, it's mindset for me, and mindset can be only changed by sensibilization, education, training, making that human resources available with that capability. And also, I'm specifically talking about the say older generation, right? You mentioned it. So people who didn't grow up with those iPhones and stuff like that, to get the fear out of them from using these kind of technologies. And I think sometimes it's just overwhelming, but I think it's sometimes making a mouth not a molehill. So let's try to take those fears away and enable people to use it. Yeah.
Very well said. Rahul, please.
So I think a lot of those got addressed by the rest of the crew, but just the cost would be the cost or the initial hurdle to make that leap is a challenge.
Very well
You have
said.
to
Oh
plan
my
for it.
gosh, yes, thank you. Definitely, the top a few hurdles in to smart manufacturing. So thank you so much. We've learned so much, and definitely with we learned who are the stakeholders, the shareholders, the consumers. Everyone should know about smart manufacturing. So Vivek, if I may ask, is IIoT a digital twin? Is that what they call the digital twin?
Well, not entirely. I mean, the digital twin can has several definitions. Typically, I mean, digital twin is uh, more of a virtualization, and it could be a virtualization of your production sphere. It could be a machine, but essentially, the idea behind it is maybe to try out things without having actually done anything physical yet. So it's the software today enables us to run through simulations, to run through
Yes.
operations, and IoT is, I would say, part of it because IoT will give you a snapshot of your manufacturing, and you can use that snapshot to bring it back into your digital twin to enhance optimize your overall planning and stuff like that.
Very well said. I wanted to make sure I brought that into definition as well before our discussion ended. We have 3 minutes into the discussion. Devin, why don't you start with your closing comments, please?
So for me, it's very simple. I just quote a line out of Three Idiots, which is a popular Indian film. It says, "Run after excellence, and success will come after you." So I think it's about excellence in manufacturing, and I think one way to achieve excellence in manufacturing is through making sure you make the best out of what you have. And I think smart is an enabler for that.
Very
That's
well
how I see
said.
it.
Devin, thank you so much for your time this evening or morning for us. Scott, closing comments, please.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Nazira, for inviting me to this, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with these other panelists. Um,
And they're
you
all
know,
waiting for your invite, though.
oh, yes, I'll get their email addresses after this, but
Yes.
um, you know, smart manufacturing, smart cities. I mean, we're going into another area. An area of life that I find exciting. It will come with its challenges. It's funny because the rapid pace of change is just unprecedented, and so I think we have to commit ourselves to forever learning because it's just like you were talking about Pandora. I never really considered Pandora an old technology until my two grandsons introduced me to apps that we communicate with. So um, I watched a company when I was the CEO of a manufacturing company. They produced CDs, and they mass produced CDs for the music industry. They were next door. I became good friends with the owner, and in 4 years, I saw him go from 20 employees to one employee, and so it was back related to the comment that I made. Is sometimes you have to implement a change management process before you actually think that you need it, because the implementation time that it takes, you could outrun the lifespan of the technology that you're currently using.
Definitely, much very well said. A very insightful thought as well. Thanks, Scott. And I think Rahul touched upon the same thing earlier. Uh, do it now, otherwise someone's going to eat you up later, and you're going to shut down. So go ahead. Thank you so much, Scott. I know you're in New York vacationing, but you took time out to come today, and your insight in the county government or from your previous experience really helped us today understand more. Rahul.
I mean, my parting thought is just it's the journey seems fearful. You don't know what's at the end of the tunnel. Just take it, just do it, and start small. Start with the encourage the industry to start with reliability centric maintenance, and then they will eventually see the next step is sensors, and the next step is better applications, next step is digital twins. They'll get that journey, but you got to start with reliability centric maintenance, and take that leap. It'll reap benefits for you
Very
anywhere,
well.
no matter what scale.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul, for your time this morning as well. Shaju?
Yeah, I see a positive aspect is that when the internet came, we never thought that we will be able to get so much of universal acceptability through the internet, the communication, everything, e-commerce, all aspects have changed. The way we live, the way we communicated. The same thing has happened when Internet of Things happened. Internet has been used to communicate with the things and things, all these things which has happened, and IoT has come, which has been universally accepted, and it is moving ahead. Now the industrial Internet of Things, that is the next phase of it, which is also going to be a universally accepted thing. Maybe it may take a little more years, but it has to be accepted. So I think, like internet, the IIoT will also be a universally accepted thing. So I really look at it in that.
Great thought. Thank you, Shaju. Vivek, closing comments, please.
Yeah, also thank you from my side for inviting me. Happy to be here on this panel. I just want to say, make sure you don't get left behind. I mean, if you think in the consumer space, what happened when Amazon came in, when Uber came in, it was a complete disruption of the industry. And sooner or later, it's going to happen in the manufacturing space. So, latching on to what Rahul said, get started in whatever you have to or you can. Maybe try to see grab those low hanging fruits, and yeah, and I wish you all the best and success in your venture.
Thank you so much, Vivek. And thank you so much for listening, all of you, for the last 2 hours. Thank you, all panelists, for your time, for your expertise, for your energy. And of course, smart manufacturing is there and it's coming, right? It's coming. So let's adapt it, accept it, learn about it. Spread the positive messages, and wishing you all the best. Please celebrate with us our 4th year anniversary for Chai and Just Chat session next month, and we look forward to your continuing support. And thank you again. Take care
Thank
and
you. Thank
have
you.
a good weekend, rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.